Alright guys, in today's video, we're going to talk about employer-sponsored visas with a focus on the temporary skills shortage 482 visa today. My name is Tracy Chen and I'm the Principal and CEO at Mason Chen Law Group. For those who would like to get in contact with myself or one of our fantastic lawyers or agents, our contact details are below. Now, before I jump into this video, don't forget to like and subscribe and share this with people who need it. Now, this is one of my favorite visas to do. We've been doing so many of these over the last few months, and simply because it is one of the most viable pathways for people to stay and work in Australia, and majority of the time there is a pathway to permanent residency. Let's just talk about the basic steps kind of required and some of the eligibility requirements. First of all, you need to have an employer who can sponsor you in an eligible occupation. That employer needs to be a standard business sponsor. Now, that responsibility really falls upon the employer. So if you do find an employer who's willing to sponsor you, I would get them to speak to a migration agent or lawyer so that they can talk them through the process. It's fairly straightforward. They'll just need to prove that they are a lawfully operating business in Australia. So provide information such as tax returns, business activity statements, lease agreements, ABN registration, ASIC registration. All these documents a sound operating business in Australia should have. They will go ahead and lodge that application, and these applications are approved pretty quickly. Some are auto approved, some are approved in a couple of days, a couple of weeks, or maybe up to a couple of months. Though I haven't seen one take a couple of months for a while. The next step is the employer will need to nominate you in that eligible occupation. So let's use chef for example. Now, they do need to conduct labor market testing. So they'll need to advertise this on national recruitment platforms. This is to ensure that Australians are able to see this ad. Now, there are exemptions for this, but I won't go through these today. I'll do a separate video for this, as these do get a little bit complicated. So let's just say you need to have labor market testing done. You'll need to post 2 job ads up. They'll need to have very specific information. So again, this is something that I'll work closely with a migration agent or lawyer on, because there's been so many nomination applications refused because of this. And they'll need to have that job ad up for at least 28 days. Most of the time, they will need to advertise the salary. Now, the minimum salary has recently been increased to $73,150, but just that minimum isn't enough. So you also need to see what the market is paying for someone in your occupation with the same years of work experience. So a chef in Sydney with 5 years work experience will be paid differently to a chef in Tasmania with 2 years of work experience. So very important to work closely with your migration agent or lawyer there. So let's just say that all goes through, you've submitted the required documents, then they can lodge your visa application. Now, this is the fun part. How do you actually qualify for the 482 visa? It changes from different occupations. So again, please get the right legal advice from your migration agent or lawyer. But let's talk about a real basic application. So if you were a chef, to qualify for the 482 visa, you would need to have a minimum of diploma plus at least 2 years of full-time work experience. If you don't have a diploma qualification, if you have 3 years of full-time work experience, this can be used in lieu of that qualification. Again, it depends on the occupation. So sometimes for some occupations, you cannot use work experience in lieu of having qualifications. One of those occupations, for example, is accountant. Now, the employment must also be full-time, so that's really important. I guess if you're working as an engineer or maybe an external auditor, you probably do have a full-time role. However, for a lot of trade occupations, and in particular chefs, you can get some different types of employment. You might have casual, you might have a bit of part-time, it's all mixed up. But basically what we need to look for is full-time. We can also consider part-time, but we cannot consider casual. So when we're looking at your profile, we're really looking for 2 years full-time work experience. If you had 2 years of casual work experience, you may not be eligible for the 482 visa. So that is definitely something to consider. Now, let's just say you qualify, you would be able to go ahead and lodge a visa application. Now, I mentioned 3 different stages there. So we have the standard business sponsorship, the nomination application, as well as the visa application. You can submit them one after the other. You don't need to have one approved to lodge the next step, but you must have at least one lodge before you lodge the second one, obviously, because you have to tie them to the reference numbers and things like that. So look, normally, hopefully, you would want to be pretty organized with these applications. So we have a fair few months to work with these. We have worked with these with the very minimum time frame. So for example, we had 30 days to do this and nothing was done. So they had to advertise. You have to advertise for a minimum of 28 days. So we had to prepare everything so that in that 2-day window, we could lodge everything, because it has to be after that 28 days. And after, step 1, step 2, step 3 is how it all needs to be lodged. I know a lot of people say that they find difficult in finding employers to sponsor. But to be honest, there is a lot of employers that do sponsor in Australia. We do a lot of those applications. So you just need to find the right employer. And the government is encouraging this more and more. And there's going to be some new visas announced at the end of the year, which is another type of employer sponsorship. So hopefully that is something that migrants will be able to look forward to. So I will do a more detailed video on each one of those stages in my upcoming videos. If you have any questions, please feel free to drop them in the comments below. Otherwise, thank you so much for watching. Don't forget to like and subscribe and share this video with people who need it.